Well, hi, Lisa.
Hi, Jenny.
Thanks for joining us today to talk about the Race for Healing. What we're doing is just checking in with some of the participants to see how things are going. And you are one of the participants that is just really working hard. You've got a lot of minutes going. And so wanted to kind of just hear more about what that's been like for you. Is that okay?
Sure.
Cool. Well, maybe to get started, would you mind to share some more about yourself, like who you are and what your journey's been like so far, maybe with this issue?
Sure. I am a survivor. I am also a graduate of 3 years in a Wings support group, which was an invaluable benefit in my recovery process. After I graduated from my Wings group, and some time passed, I joined the Wings board, and I have been on the board and secretary of the board for, I think, over 4 years.
Yeah. Well, and we so appreciate all the ways that you contribute to this mission and all the ways you support survivors. And so talk to us a little bit about your thoughts heading into this year's Race for Healing and the virtual, option and COVID and everything, because you're someone who um, every year you train for this, and every year you invite your friends to come out and be part of the in-person 5K. And so this was kind of a different thing this year, trying to figure out, for us how to offer that and for you how to participate. So what was that like for you when we got started?
I was not excited. At first, I was not excited about the new format. And a big part of that may be COVID and everything being virtual. And I have been, the Wings race every year has been a big thing for me. At first, when my body wasn't working well, I would walk and just try to make it around the whole course. And then eventually I started running slowly and then running more. And I was really looking forward to running in a race this year. And I was kind of disappointed. But it turns out that it took me a little while, but I have embraced the new format, and I am actually being physically, emotionally, intellectually challenged by the format that you set up this year. It's really, for me personally, it has been inspiring.
Well, I so appreciate the way you were open to, you know, to trying those different aspects. And maybe let's back up and talk about some of these different components of healing and some of the things that you've done already. Because, like, how has the physical component of healing, um, how has that been for you, and why has that been so important to you in recent years?
About 4 years ago, I was injured and I was physically having a lot of trouble just moving, just walking. And I started a long, slow physical recovery. And I am happy to say that I am stronger than I have ever been in my life. And I have taken on physical challenges, and I've learned that I enjoy that physical challenge. I enjoy striving to do things that I couldn't in the past.
Well, I think that's incredible. And it's because I know you and I've watched you engage in those practices over the year, and just to see like the ways that that's enhanced your healing, just as, as a colleague, as a friend that's been, and as a survivor, as a fellow survivor, it's really awesome to see how that practice has benefited you in your life.
It has benefited me definitely physically, but it's also improving my fitness level has helped my emotional recovery as well. It
Can-
just, it helps bring in the sunshine. It makes everything a little bit easier when I am physically challenged and taxed, when I have expended as much as I've got. And in many ways, it gives me a feeling of satisfaction at having done something as hard as I could. And it's a satisfaction that I didn't really get in my previous life.
Interesting. Well, and so I have some questions around that
Sure.
because the other components that we've added this year for the month-long Race for Healing were some educational components and experiential components, learning about childhood sexual abuse trauma, what the healing process is like, things like embodiment and nutrition. And you've been involved with Wings for a long time. You know that in past years, we had like a conference and we had ways for survivors to learn about those issues, and you participated in many of those. So one, I guess I want to say, I think part of why when those options were available this year, you had already gotten that in previous years. So it makes sense to me that, well, I guess my question in that is, do you think that learning and that part of your healing journey helped you feel more empowered in the physical layers of healing, like such that now you see value in all of them? I don't know. I guess I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts on that.
I think you're asking me if I feel like the learning that I've done in things like the Wings conferences in the past has helped me to be more physically active.
Yeah, thanks for making sense of my question. I guess I was wondering because like the nutrition topic that we added for this month's Race for Healing was
Yes.
by someone who presented at a conference a few years ago, and I think that was a topic that was interesting for you, and you've been engaging in that. So
Yes, and I think that she's a fabulous speaker, and I benefited enormously from hearing her and have made changes in my life based on her speaking.
And so I guess that was my then question. Have those practices contributed to your like overall health and your physical health to support those components of healing that maybe you weren't doing as strongly as you're doing now a few years ago when you were doing the other work?
Yes, yes. All of those things over time have sort of come together, and it's almost like synergy as they came together. Most all aspects of my life began improving.
Well, I think that's awesome. And that's good news for survivors, I guess, because for anybody that's new to the Race for Healing this year, and we've got this menu of options, learning and healing and some of those more holistic. And if they're just new to all of that, it's sort of a lot to take in. And of course, we always say, trust yourself and try the things that are resonating, they're speaking to you right now, and maybe incorporate other things later. You're someone who's been doing that for several years. And so I just curious if you, can speak to how that's helped your overall recovery and just the value of making space for those different types of healing.
Okay, which are you asking about?
Well, like you've been engaging in these different healing practices for several years. You're not someone that's new to the race this year. And so the physical components that are like really exciting for you that you're doing now, I guess it is my assumption, they're built on these other things you've done over many years.
Yes. I mean, I started out just trying to be able to move and learning how to use my body in healthier ways for movement. And over time, I have become stronger and able to sustain physical activity. And I have, this summer, I've taken on, in light of, I guess in light of COVID, when I couldn't go outside, when I couldn't go out socially and go, I guess, inside, I felt like my safest option was to be outside, and I've taken on new activities. I've been doing stand-up paddleboarding, and about 7 weeks ago, I took up pickleball, and I actually went way outside my comfort zone and played in a pickleball tournament this past weekend. That was a little scary because I've only been playing a few weeks, but it was really fun. And it's a really great way to be kind of social and physical and active and safe and healthy from germs. I've also, during this month, during the Race for Healing month, I have run my fastest 5K, which that's always my goal for the Wings race. And although there was no formal 5K, I ran my own 5K with my own timekeeping device. And it was significantly my personal best. And I feel very, very good about that inside. And just yesterday, I had my fastest ever 10-mile bike ride, which I've been riding my bike a lot and working on my speed. And that was very, very gratifying. And really, both of those were satisfying events or occasions in my life that were precipitated by the way that you structured the Race for Healing this year. And so I will say thank you, Jenny, because I'm feeling really, really good about that in my 59 years, I have now in the last few weeks had my fastest 5K of my whole life and my fastest 10-mile bike ride of my whole life.
Well, congratulations to you. That's all you.
Thank you.
That's amazing. And, I hear several things in that. One, I guess those are some of your victory checks for the month. That's awesome. And two, you're someone who really likes to challenge yourself. And so some survivors might really resonate with that, setting a goal.
I didn't always. I used to be scared of most everything. And that's part of my recovery, is that I'm learning about myself, and I'm discovering that I do like to be challenged physically, mentally, intellectually, emotionally. I like that challenge, and I especially like when I'm able at the end to say, I conquered that. I did something that was outside my comfort zone, and now I've got that in my past.
See, I love that. And with this issue of childhood sexual abuse, most people don't want to approach it for so many reasons that are totally valid, right? Including that it's scary and healing is hard. And what we've been talking about for the purpose of these calls is really when resistance comes up and when things feel hard, we have some choices in that to back away, to take our time, and or to move forward when it feels right for us. And so it just sounds like you're somebody that's always sort of open to pushing yourself a bit. And I guess I'm wondering, through that process, is it beneficial? It sounds like it's been really beneficial to your healing overall.
It has been very beneficial.
Well, that's awesome. And also that, people of all ages can have major progress in their lives by addressing this.
Absolutely. I mean, I really did most all of my healing. I guess it was the very end of my 40s and my 50s. And you're never too old. And you're never too old to make space for happiness, and for not even so much happiness, because that sounds too magical, but to have a satisfying life. I feel satisfied. I feel good about what I'm doing. And I've learned through this process, I've learned so much more about myself and the things that I actually like and want and choose and feel. And that feels pretty good.
Well, I just am so excited and grateful that you're giving voice to that, because I think for a lot of survivors, especially those all along the journey who maybe aren't in that place yet, you know, it's easy to wonder, will we ever get there? Will we ever move through the layers of this to feel that way? And so, you know, I just really appreciate that you're somebody that's walked that hard path. And this isn't it isn't a magical snapping of the fingers. You've been very disciplined about um, healing and doing what it takes for that. And it gives, I think it gives me a lot of hope, and I hope it gives others hope that that it's worth it, right? I've been asking a few others, like, is it worth it? Um, so what would
Oh gosh, it is so worth it. It is for me. I'm not going to say for others, but for me, it was hard work. And there was a time when I had no hope. And it was worth a lot of agonizing hard work, doing things that it seemed impossible and that were very uncomfortable. And it's all worth it.
Well, I'm so glad to hear that. Anything you would say specifically to survivors wondering about looking at this issue in their life, or others wondering if they should even give this issue their attention?
For the first thing I would say is you are not alone. You are never alone. Um, for me, being in a wing support group and meeting other survivors for the first time in my life was huge. It was scary, and it was really scary to speak and to open up. But as I was talking about challenges, after a while, I was able to do that, and it opened so many doors for me. The camaraderie and the similarities, even when we were all very different people, it was very significant, substantive, meaningful, and had a huge impact on my life. Sorry, I digress. I
No,
was really saying that survivors, you are never alone. There are so many of us here who have so much love and support, and I hope that survivors never feel alone and that they feel support.
well, and as part of your supporting that belief, you always sponsor scholarships for many of the things that we do so that survivors can participate regardless of cost. So just want to say thank you for that. And just to remind folks that are watching that might want to take advantage of that scholarship option, to please do. It's not too late to sign up for the Race for Healing.
Please do.
Yeah, and then did you have any message for supporters? You have
Wait, can I say one more thing to survivors?
Of course.
You are not worthless. I spent so many years, really almost my entire life, feeling unacceptable and worthless. And that is the biggest thing that has come from my practice, my ongoing practice of recovery, is that I no longer feel worthless. Well, most of the time. And I hope that you can see the value in yourself.
Gosh, Lisa, I really appreciate you sharing that so vulnerably. So many survivors, I would say most of us, have that feeling deep within us. And some of us try to hide that through a number of activities. And to be able to just put that on the table and say, yeah, I've felt that way. And I've stepped through that and I'm no longer there. And that's a place we can all get to. That takes a lot of strength to be someone to give voice to that and to do the work to live that. So thanks for saying that specifically. That's a core core part of survivorship, I think, what you just mentioned.
Thank you.
Thank you. Um, Supporters, do you have any message for supporters?
Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
That's great, because it's so rare that people support this issue. And again, you've brought so many people to this cause who've been just so open to hearing what we're doing and to contribute in so many ways. And so, yeah, thank you to all of those folks and everybody that gets involved. And then one last question. So why do you stand, well, actually two questions, because you mentioned the practice, your recovery practice. And I guess I want to connect that back to the Race for Healing. So in our invitation to track minutes, we're encouraging people to make more time in their day, in their week, in their month for these types of practices, these types of things that will help them gain resilience and be on the healing journey. And so I know you've also been willing to give voice to some of the things you're doing that fall maybe in the other category. Like, you know, they're not the sessions that we're offering because you've already done that learning through the conference. They're maybe not movement, but just other things that you're doing that you found helpful as a survivor. Do you want to share any of those?
Sure. First, I want to say I look at recovery as a practice of recovery, and I look at recovery as a journey, not a destination. I don't ever think, oh, I'm recovered. I'm recovering. And I suspect I will, or at least my opinion is that I will always be recovering, and I practice my recovery every single day. I guess one of the biggest things, emotional things that I do for my recovery on a regular, ongoing basis is I focus on my feelings, and that's specifically my negative feelings. Most all of my life, I ignored my negative feelings and distracted myself away from them with all sorts of things. And I'm finding that when I don't focus on them, they just simmer below the surface of my consciousness, and they taint everything in my life. It's like a giant rain cloud just constantly over my head. And when I focus on them and give the negative feelings that are simmering there time and space and air and attention, I'm able to, I guess, live through them. And I have to say, it's not fun, it's not comfortable, but it allows them to move and not be stuck. And that really helps my overall life outlook. Was that an answer to your question?
That was a great answer. And that's why, and as I've been touching base with just a few survivors in this way, it is bringing up these issues that are very real for folks. And yet I don't hear enough about them. And so, you know, I've heard you talk about this before, and I appreciate you giving voice to it today, because yeah, it makes sense. When sexual abuse happens, one of the things we do as survivors to like protect ourselves from that is often to cut off from our feeling. So, you know, we don't feel anything because we don't want to feel the pain or fear, emotions attached with that. And yet in adulthood, when we want to start being a human being with our feelings, like doing that as a practice it's not our normal. And so it's hard to do that. And I appreciate that you're mentioning that. And that those are some of the minutes that, you know, you're included in your practice this month, like that, in addition to your, you know, physical commitments and all the ways that that's helped your healing journey. Like, I don't know if many people would think about an activity like that, but how valuable that is to being a whole healthy, you know, person. So again, I appreciate you being willing to be so open and honest about that. It's a gift. Yeah. So yeah, why do you stand with CSA survivors?
I stand with CSA survivors because I am one of you. And I wish every survivor healing and a satisfied life.
I echo that. Is there anything else you want to share?
I think I'm good.
Well, again, appreciate you being open to this month's activities and being so open and sharing how that's going for you. And again, a reminder, this is all under the topic of if things are difficult or uncomfortable, to maybe hold space for that and see if there might be a nugget of growth to be had there. And again, everything you're sharing is just living proof that helps, you know. So thank you.
Thank you, Jenny.
All right. Well, have a great day.
You too. Thanks.